louder is necessary, huh? Ah, okay. I'll scooch up. I'll scooch up, and maybe scooching up and speaking into it. Maybe that will help. Maybe that will be better. Willfully, that that's been happening lately. My maybe the mic is just on its way out. My phones and stuff like that get a lot of wear and tear, so it might be some sweat got to the mic or something like that. You tell me if it's any different now. And I hate to turn y'all into test subjects, but if you can't hear me, then I know that could be pretty annoying too. But just tell me if it's any louder now. It's louder. Okay. Peace, 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 peace now. Much better. Interesting. Okay. Cool, cool, cool. There we go. Give thanks. Yeah, so I don't have to be I don't really like the camera so up in my face like that. So I can move back. Yeah, man. I know it's been a while, and just been working through some personal thoughts and some experiences, just some life things. So I haven't really been on, but I've been meaning to make a video probably for a strong or so now, maybe even a little longer. But you know, got a lot on my plate, and sometimes time just begins to neglect to remind me of how much of it I'm not going to get back. You know, so sometimes you got to go and wrestle some back. So yeah, man. So I figured I wanted to get on and break bread lyrically for a minute, man, and just check in. But there was a couple of things that was on my mind, like why I wanted to really rap with you all. And it's cool to see some of the names I haven't seen in a while. Um, and I'm not gonna be back on regular or anything like that, so it's not an entrance. Um, it's not an entrance to that. But you know, we opened up the registration for our new, and there was something I just wanted to kind of share that for people to think about. You know what I mean? And just to get straight to it, when you're coming into a situation, always remember that you're coming into a situation. You're coming into an environment, and you typically will choose to be a part of something because you like what it stands for, or you're or what it stands for is what you want to stand for, right? And sometimes it could be tricky because um, those of us who are kind of on a path, even if we come out of a household where there are some remnants of consciousness, um, it hits everybody different. You know what I mean? Some people just say I'm woke, and that's the end of it. Some people take it a step further. Some people want to share it with other people. Some people use it to try to, figure out their journey, or maybe some of the things that previously stumped them or frustrated them, and they try to work out maybe their own equations and try to create a summation of all of the things that they've gone through just using consciousness, man. What is my life adding up to? What is the sigma of all my years, if you will? Um, but it gets difficult because a lot of times, like I said, the journey is a lonely one. No matter what level you're at in terms of consciousness or in terms of this journey, it's gonna be a lonely one. You can't do anything about. There's no way around that. And sometimes, as those of us who are a little bit more aware, we find ways to tap in. You find that a lot of spiritually sensitive people are musical. They play an instrument or they can sing. Maybe they're really into dance, real heavy, or different forms of art, because they're seeking for ways to communicate what they know the human brain can't understand. Because the human brain is at a certain level of mathematics, and a lot of times, because of the ways that we're taught math in schools, we're not really taught how infinite math is, how infinite all the combinations could be. So it's hard for us to imagine that some of us are working out more complex formulas all the time, all day, every day, you know. And if you're a person like that, then it becomes difficult to have people to just build with, to just commune with, to fellowship with, Um, so you find other ways, and willfully those ways are healthy, and they're constructive, and you're not just looking for ways to hurry up and die. Sometimes people get into that space where it's like life. It'd be better off. I'd be better off if I was just dead. Regardless of the genius that they may possess, they would just rather not be here, um, because they're not finding. At least they don't realize they're not finding the reflection of their own formulas within them. You know, but I say that to say that, a lot of times, as a result, people will get into situations or try to be a part of movements and stuff like that, and their their mentation, or their conception of that space is like, this is a place where I'm gonna get this off, or like, even what I knew, I've had people come in and like almost like try to drill me, like, so wait, so y'all got this, and do y'all got this, and what if I want to do this? And it's like, you don't realize you're like Xing yourself out right there, like, you just talked yourself out. Because usually in those situations, the dialogue is never, I have this resource, I have this, I'm an energetic person, I have a lot of energy, or because of the nature of my work, I have a lot of time, and I've been looking for something to pour that into, you know so it's hardly ever that. And when I say hardly, 99% of the time, it's not that. It's always, I want to be a part of this because I need, because I want. And sometimes, we're in a place of want. That's okay. It's not totally unpermissible to be in a place of want or in a place of need. Sometimes things happen in our lives, and we have to have the courage to tell the people around us that I'm not here for that right now. Whatever it is you're talking about, I don't want to hear about your aching back. I don't want to hear about your feet. I don't want to hear about your bad behind children. I don't want to hear about your boss. I don't want to hear about the professor. I don't want to at your school. I don't want to hear about your teacher. I don't want to hear about none of that. I'm not here for any of that right now. At this moment in my life, I am the vortex. I am pulling things in because I have to get back to sea level, because I've been dragged down to the bottom of the ocean, and the murkiness of my own feelings and subconscious and thoughts. So, I don't have anything for you. you know, and sometimes we don't have the courage to tell people that, or to step away for a little while, and to have our moment in the wilderness, as I always used to call it that. Um, when I would kind of disappear. Back in the days, disappearing was taking your phone off the hook. You know what I mean? So I used to do that. My phone was never on the hook. My phone was always off the hook, or I wasn't answering the door, or what. I just would disappear and kind of have to go into my desert journey. You know, um, in that desert, you're hoping to find, you know, the water, right? So it's the anticipation. It's walking on that dry, hot, fine dust, earth dust, if you will, to eventually find your healing, your salt water, right? So sometimes we go through our journey experiences like that, or desert experiences, or what I would call wilderness experiences, but you just gotta get away, right? Sometimes it's that. Sometimes the people around you are so accustomed to taking that they wouldn't even understand you say, I don't have that right now. I don't have the energy for that right now, you know. So, and I'm speaking about people, prospective people coming into I knew, and some of the questions that have come to me, and they're not new questions, you know. And it's like I said, a lot of it surrounds, what are y'all gonna do for me? Nothing, because who is y'all, right? You got to understand that when you come into something, in particular, a collective, one of the first things I always recognize is like, you have to represent that collective at all times, right? That's the hardest thing for a lot of people. I gotta rep it at all times, right? You know, I remember a lot of different systems that I've gone through, you know, spiritually or just different stuff, even musically, like just different concentrations, you know, just different schools of thinking or activity where perhaps I was a pure, or I was surrounded by purists, actually, is what I wanted to say. Surrounded by people who were holding down a certain tradition and were completely and totally invested in it. And in order for me to really relate to them, I was going to have to do the same thing, you know. And you have to make a decision. Like, can I be this all the time? Can I rep this all the time? Because that's what it requires, you know. And for some, that's difficult, you know. Yeah, I don't want to talk about certain traditions, but um, I just know there's been times, man, where I've been around certain people who espouse certain values, but then behind closed doors, were doing everything that secular people were doing. You know, they were drinking just as much, doing as much cocaine, you know, doing as many people sexually as they wanted to. You know, there was like no difference, and it was just this off and on piece of information. There was this kind of off and on sort of thing, and I was never really wired that way, so I never really understood it. You know, to keep it real, like even as a youth, being around older brothers and sisters who were part of movements that I may have really admired. Um, Sometimes those, you know, those phone calls where it was something else, or you saw the hustle. I couldn't understand being around that much wisdom and still choosing some, I don't want to use that word, um, some tomfoolery. We'll say that, and still choosing some tomfoolery, right? Um, and I mean, we all, you know, we all striving. You know what I'm saying? We all striving, but sometimes it's the limited sense of mathematics that people employ. You know, like sometimes people are stuck in like a 48 law of power type of mathematical structure where everything is about it's very individual. You know what I mean? So as long as I'm climbing and getting what I want to get, I'm going to do whatever I feel like doing without really again understanding the infinite complexities of true mathematics, you know. Um, it goes beyond 48. It goes way beyond 48. It's goes beyond your calculations, but see that's the difference when you're seeking to live real math as opposed to just laws of power, right? When you look at the supreme mathematics, even and you look at the number five, you have power or refinement, right? Now, one of the key things about that is like power or refinement. It's like it's almost a sequence because I refinement is a cleaning up. It's like a reformation, but it's a when you refine something, you're bringing out its inner quality or its core and original quality, and every force's core and original quality is truth. Every force, right? Your floor, your chair, you know, your car. At the root of it's all a divine idea that manifests itself into a physical encasement. So truth is at the core of all things, but then there's layers of delusion and difference that we put between ourselves and and the truth. right? You know, it's almost similar to how a body regulates its own temperature, right? You have your outer temperature, and then you have your core temperature, right? So your outer temperature goes up. It's your skin. It goes up and down. It could be hot, could be cold, but your body will sweat, right? It will release water and then let that water dissipate on its surface to cool itself off. You know, it has all of these different ways where it's seeking to always maintain a certain balance, even in terms of heat. Like you have with babies. Babies have what we call brown fat, right? And the brown fat, it provides a layer for extra metabolism. So when the baby is cold, the brown fat will metabolize itself, and through that process of metabolism, it will heat up. You know, and then as it heats up, it heats the baby's body up. Now, of course, as adults, we don't have as much brown fat. We hardly have any that like an infant might. But the point I'm saying is that you know we have very interesting ways, our body organisms, our minds, to bring balance, right? So even when you're refining and you're seeking to get to the truth, um, we're usually tricking the system out of balancing itself, left alone in the balance itself, right? It's almost like everyone's always ranting and raving about alkalinity. You know, you gotta have alkaline diet, alkaline diet, alkaline diet. Yeah and no, because the body will balance itself if you're not constantly putting things in it that is tricking it. You know, the body will maintain proper pH levels. It's designed to do that. It's not just this dumb uh, organism. Peace, Gypsy Gray. It's not just this dumb organism where you know it's like whatever you put in me, that's what I'm going to be. You know, the body will has some intelligence. Every cell has its own brain structure. You know what I mean? Peace, 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 Grandma Arlene. I should have said grandma information too, because I know your grandmother. Um, so we have to give it more credit, but that's power refinement, right? Now, just like the baby metabolizes its brown fat to stay warm, that's power. Metabolism is power, you know. So it takes effort to refine. And if we were to, let's just say if we were, you know, to look at mathematics, which I always suggest, look at it from positive and negative. So just like you have five as power refinement, what would negative five be? Right? So negative five would be powerless and unrefined, right? So it gives you a sense of, you know, sometimes you might look at yourself and say that's me. You know, but you're looking at the other side, or the clip off, as we say when we're dealing with Kabbalah. You're looking at the shaded side of the tree. Sometimes we only look at the side you can see. But, you know, as I always say, don't just study what makes you great, study what kills you. You know, I spend probably 90% of my time studying what's killing me more than I study what's making me great, because what's killing me will be the obstacle towards me fulfilling my life equation, you know, or again, like the layers that we put in front of us of illusion so that the truth doesn't project out, you know. So yeah, you know, speaking, peace, Deidre. Speaking in terms of, like I was saying, what I knew, like sometimes people come in and they're like, I'm gonna get this, I'm gonna get that, I'm gonna get that, and it's like that's not how you nation build. In order to nation build, everyone has to come into agreement like that. This is what we're gonna accept. Peace, peace, Baba Utu. This is what we're gonna accept, right? And this is what we're gonna project. This is what we're gonna represent. Like everybody has to come in and say that. If not, there's no nation. When you have people who's like, yeah, that's cool, I'm in it, but you know, I still do my own thing. I'm over here. I don't like to be around a lot of people. I don't like this. I don't like that. Like when you have that kind of reality going on, then you never can form any kind of collective body. You can't form a spirit among people where people are making proper decisions um, for the good of the movement. It's very helter skelter, and then you get into a whole lot of reactionary strategy. You know, so reactionary strategy is just like strategy that there's an emergency, we don't know what to do. Well, let's just use our intuition to react in the wisest way possible, right? And unfortunately, a lot of us, we live our lives like that. It's just like power refinement. If you don't make the effort, something as simple as this, right? Um, let's say I look a certain way, right? And um, I mean, I do look a certain way, but you just follow the example. I look a certain way, but I allow my beard and just my overall grooming and my hair and everything to become so unkempt that you can't even recognize me anymore, right? I don't even like, who is that guy? Like, I'm um I'm beastly, right? I'm not gonna say wow, because wow is cool. I'm beastly, right? So I no longer look like the civilized person that I am. It would take power in order to clean me back up. Like, I'm not just gonna lay out and then wake up and it's like, oh, okay, I'm groomed, I'm washed, I don't stink anymore, this or that, right? I would have to get some black soap and start scrubbing. You know what I mean? And start doing things and exerting a certain amount of power in order to refine or scrub or shine myself back to my original truth. You see? Um, so there's always an effort that's needed, and sometimes we don't realize that when we're coming into something. We don't want to do the effort. We want to emulate the end product of what that effort is. And that only lasts for so long, man. You can't keep that up for so long, especially when you have a bunch of soldiers. You're coming into a movement with a bunch of soldiers who are putting in the work. They're gonna see through you within about 15 minutes. You know, um, no matter. Can I recommend a Babylon, Philadelphia? They're gonna see that through you, no matter what you're saying, no matter what you're talking about, right? They're gonna see that straight off the bat, right? Um, so an important thing is like you have to really kind of get yourself in a space where you have to make the decision: am I ready to put the work in? Like, am I ready to get on my grizzly and put the power that's needed into my own refinement? You see, or am I going to remain powerless and unrefined? And the more unrefined I am, the less my body and my system and my spirit can naturally balance itself like it was born to do. Balance is health. Balance is wellness. When all of the elements in your body are balanced, you don't have any issues. None. You're not going to have any kind of sickness. When your water is talking to your fire and your fire is talking to your earth and your earth is talking to your breathing or your air, you're fine, right? So when do things go out of balance? When you're introducing things into your spirit, and sometimes it's on the external. Peace, Cree. Sometimes it's on the external. There are things that work from the outside in. Everything doesn't work from the inside out. Some things work from outside in. Like the most honorable Elijah Muhammad said, your environment will always beat over your nature. It will always win over your nature. That's true. You know, that is an example of something working from the outside in, right? That's outside in. So it's the same thing with, you know, what we put our power to in our environment. If a person comes into Anu and does nothing and puts no power towards refining themselves within it and refining the movement as a whole, then the sickness that they allow will eventually become their own mental sickness, right? Um, if I live in a place and there's a dead rat in the corner, right? And I do nothing about the dead rat. I put no effort or no power into going and picking up the body and disposing of it, and then disinfecting the area that it was in, and maybe even finding out why did I have a rat in my house. If I do nothing towards that end, then eventually the mentality um, that would that would represent that rat being dead in my space will become a fixture inside of my psyche. You see, you can't get away from it. So there are things that in our outer environment, in Ifa we have the Odu Ika Meji, and that's symbolized by a serpent. And one of the important things about serpents, to always remember, they're cold-blooded, right? So when you have that snake energy or that snake medicine strong in your life, it's representing like your environment. You know what I mean? It's not just some of us sometimes we can go into this like temple inside. Right? So it doesn't matter where we're at. We can just sink down into ourselves and just be there, right? And sometimes, you know, you might have learned to do that because of maybe an unfortunate childhood. Maybe you had parents that argued all the time, or you had strange people in your home, or maybe something traumatic happened to you, and you learned to explore the caverns and the crevices of your own spirit. You know, so as an adult, you have that skill. Like, yeah, I could be anywhere and just kind of meditate, right? But then sometimes there's seasons where it's like, nah, that wall has been painted green forever, and I hate that color green, and it's throwing off my whole energy. I got to paint that wall over. I don't care. Sometimes you have stuff like that, or you know, it could be something in the front of your house. Every time you pull up, there's some dead flowers, and it's like, man, I know I've been meaning to replant those flowers, and that starts to play with your psyche, because everything that's in your domicile is your psyche. You see, so um, how you design and refine and nurture your environment is always going to be it's going to reflect back into how your spirit quietly nurtures your brain. You see, um, and if it's left unrefined, that will lead to not only mental illness, but then it will start showing in your physical illness. I mean, your physical wellness as well. So, like I said, one of the important things that I wanted to share, like when you coming into a situation, man, be ready to represent what that situation is. Don't think like you're so slick that people are not gonna see that you in it. You in it. You have an agenda, right? Um, Cause what's important to understand, like, if you come in dirty, and I'm just talking about me now, and this is a not this is probably not a good part of me, you know, but it's the Eshu in me, it's the trickster. If you come at me wrong or you come to my organization wrong, a lot of times I'll let people in like that, and they won't realize that um, I've already peeped them out, and I'm gonna play a game on them, and it's gonna be so bad they're gonna wish that they never did. They never even came like that, right? That's not good, right? But one of the sisters used to always call me not Jon Snow, President Snow from Hunger Games. She would say, "You just like him. Like you always have these schemes. Like every time people think they escape something, you got another thing for them." That's what I like doing. You know, um, if there was there is a profession for that. I could do that all day. Mind game. Yeah, let's want to go into a mental labyrinth. You want to play? Let's play. So a lot of times it doesn't really work in the best interest of people to kind of come sideways. Um, it's just better just to be straightforward, and you know if you're really going to represent because you cannot build a nation without representing. When everyone's kind of mentally and emotionally scattered into their own space and still kind of constricted and closed and who they're choosing to show up as, you can't get anywhere like that. You get nowhere that way. And that's the sad part, man, because a lot of times people don't realize that we don't have the luxury of doing that. Everyone's still being so selfish and everyone's still being so scattered. And I'm going to do a little of this. You're not that smart to pick a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that. It's like me going to a restaurant in a foreign country, speaking none of the language and having a totally different culture, and just looking at what's hanging up in the window or wherever and say, "Ooh, that looks good. I'm gonna have a little of that, little of that, little of that," and I don't even know what it is. I don't even know if it's an unclean food. I don't know if it's meat. I don't know if it was something. If it was bile. Certain countries they eat bile meat, bile. It's bile on it. I don't eat that. A certain soups they have to mix the stomach lining of the cow in it first. You know what I mean? I don't want that. you know. But I think I'm so wise and I'm so brilliant, and I'm sitting on my throne like, give me some of that, give me some of that, give me some of that. That's foolish, So uh, it was just something that was on my mind. You know what I mean? Not that anything happened or there was no event or explosion or anything like that. But I was just kind of mentally building on the power of representation. You know, and how people tend to mix and match, and they create systems that they feel comfortable with. You know what I mean? And that's weak. You know what I mean? Like in our new, you read the our new way, we advocate on, on the seventh day, you chill. You dig into your spirit. You know what I mean? And there's people who fly in and out of that. Oh, I had to work today. I had to. You're a sucker. Yeah, I said it. You're a sucker. Like even the attention that we give to ourselves. People give 8, 10 hours a day to their job, won't give 45 minutes to their own health. You're a sucker. You think about that. Like, how much of a sucker are you? If I could get you to completely neglect and ignore yourself for some fiat currency, something that ain't even real, I'm going to get you to ignore something that is real for something that isn't real. How dumb are you? And I'm using the word dumb on purpose, right? Because that's not an insult to be dumb. It just means you don't know, right? Um, but sometimes we do know, and we do the opposite of what's right knowledge. So now we're stupid. That's a different word, right? Um, but that's that whole mix and match. I'm gonna make my own thing, you know, and you never get anywhere like that. And as far as building with other people, can't do it like that, man. There's got to be a sacrifice at some point. There's got to be a compromise at some point. And sometimes people can't get beyond their own selfishness. As a Babalao, that's something that I knew even before I was initiated that was going to be something that was going to be um, a big item on the plate. And the reason being is because coming up through the ranks, as an Ogun priest, I saw that there's, just to be very, very frank, there's a lot of women in the Orisha community, in particular, just like the church, because it is really just like the church, unfortunately. Um, a lot of single women, right? And when you are doing that work, you're seeing them more vulnerable than sometimes even like the men they've had relationships with for a decade. You see parts of them that no one else does. And I've had women cry in my arms. Baba, I'm so lonely. Beautiful women. I'm so lonely, Baba. I just want someone to touch me. What so what's supposed to happen next? You, you know, um, and I before those experiences even began, I knew that was coming, right? So there had to be a compromise. Well, what am I repping in this moment, right? I could be, you know what I mean? I could be that, but that's not what I'm here to be. That's not what I signed up for. When I went through this process and I took this oath, I said that I was going to represent Orumila, right? So unless I have a bunch of, you know, um, patakis of Orumila Jayan, every female that sits on the mat, then that's not what I'm gonna do. Now maybe maybe beneath the waist, like my lower animal nature, yeah, why not? Yeah. You know, bobble out, have penis will travel. You know what I mean? Just be public penis, you know. Um, but that's my animal nature. You know, my higher nature tells me, nah, man, that's insane. And it's not to say I don't know priests who get down like that, male and female. You know, but excuse me, you're not a priest. You're not serving the people. You're serving yourself, right? And yeah, ministry to self is a part, but there's a process. Ministry to self, ministry to the spirit, ministry to the Most High, ministry to the people. You see, so your ministry to self is just about the healing, right? And some people get stuck in that healing mode and they find all different alternatives and call it healing. You know, I had a session with this person because the vibes were right and I felt good after. It was very healing, like, so they get kind of stuck in that. So that's what I'm kind of sharing, even coming into our new. And like I said, I'm not going to do a whole series of videos and stuff. And this isn't a heavy teaching um, video, because like I said, I've been trying to stay off because I think people are staring into these screens a little bit too much, man. And I know I haven't even done a podcast, but like I said, I've been working through a couple of things, very important things in my own life, and well, I can't say my own life because I don't own life, but in my own journey, I've been working through some very heavy things, you know. Um, but like I said, man, you come in if you're gonna rep a nation, Anu Nation, it's a nation. Then you have to rep it to the fullness, man. You don't just do some things sometimes. Like for the sisters, you don't just wear skirts once in a while, or wear your hair wrap. The hair wrap is and that's in the Anu way. We recognize where we're at. You know what I mean? We recognize where we're at, man. We're behind enemy lines, and everybody has touched you. You see, the whole world has shipped you around the world to be touched. So now you finally come into a situation with some strong men where we're like, nah, this is not she's not to be touched by the world. She's not even to be looked on by the world. Like, you're not going to see her glory. You're not going to see her hair and all of these tight fitting outfits where you're going to see her body. You're not going to see that. That's not for you, right? Now, some may take exception to that, right? You got people that say, well, my hair is my power and they're antennas, and my hair is antennas to the Most High. You got to understand that. Yeah, it's a bidirectional antenna. So it sends, but it also receives, right? Um, so what environment are you in that you should be soaking up, right? Now, if you're home or you're on your own compound, you're amongst your own people, wear them out. I don't have locks anymore, so there's really nothing moving. But let them flow. But that's something that somebody might look at and be like, I do it sometimes, and sometimes I don't. I had to go over to my mother's house today, and I didn't feel like hearing her mouth. So it might be something like that. But then you're not repping the nation. Again, you can own a nation, Bill, when you 10 toes down. You gotta have 10 toes down in the mud, and only from there can you really build because that's the foundations are on the ground. You see, um, you can't fight the battle until you put your feet down in the mud. You know, the battle is in the sky. You know what I mean? And if you think you're just gonna make a proclamation and then jump up to the sky, you're not. You become those. You become that deity that can go into the sky through quality. Not through not through proclamation. That's not how you get up there. You know, I'm king this. I'm the god this. That's just proclamation. Yeah, I saw Baba Uti for 401. You was thinking of Risha. But yeah, it's all good. But yeah, man, you attain what you need to attain through quality. We were speaking about that not too long ago. I feel like it was either one of our Sabbath ciphers. Peace, Nikki Love. It's good to see you again. At least your avatar. Um, I don't know if it was one of the members could say it, but it was either a Sabbath or it might have been. We do like a study group on Wednesdays, and sometimes I pop my head in and they'll ask me questions. But we were talking about doing Aduras and essentially doing like Arisha prayers or well, Aduras are not prayers, but I'm just saying the word prayer for those who may not know the difference. But um, if we recognize that we are a Safo of Yahuwah, then should we still be speaking to Arisha? And one of the things that I shared, and I won't get into it because it's not really for public consumption, so I won't get too deep into it. But you know, it was a study session. Oh, okay, thanks, Antonio. Yeah, and it was one of those. But in order to get, have that conversation at the top of the mountain with Oya and beyond, right? You have to be able to peace, Alex. You got to understand the mountain, or you'll fall back down it, right? So there's a liberty that we have here on the planet. And in order to really capitalize on the greatest aspects of that liberty, we have to understand the air, we have to understand the water, we have to understand the mountains. We have to understand all of these natural elements that we were given to not only balance through, but also to evolve. Because you're also uncovering the truth of the water. When you're figuring out Oshun and Olasa and Olokun, and Oba and Oya and Ajay Saluga, you're figuring out what's inside of the water. You know, no different than a scientist taking a few droplets of water and putting it under a microscope. You see, so some systems are very itemized. When you look at the Kemetic system, it's very itemized. Warm air, cool air, moving air, stagnant air, hot air, desert air. Um, there's so many different archetypes that represent so many different natural phenomena, and sometimes, unfortunately, we get stuck there because we love stories, you know, and sometimes not recognizing, just in terms of human psychology, the general transition and movements of things. There's a time when we don't understand thunder, right? So we attribute it to the thunder itself as a deity, right? And then there comes a time when we get a little bit further, and then we attribute thunder as a response of a higher deity that sits above the thunder. The gods are upset with us. They struck a tree, Um, and then we go a little bit further, and we begin to study the mathematics and the science of the thunder and the lightning. You see, and all of those explanations have to work in tandem, right? But sometimes we get stuck at one. Maybe we get stuck in the skepticism of science, or we get stuck in the fantasy of the mythology, or as what's really present or pervasive nowadays is we get stuck in the pseudoscience. We just start making stuff up, and if people like us, it becomes real. If you're likable, if you're funny, or whatever people like, you could say anything. I mean, think about how many celebrities say things about vaccinations, and oh, I shouldn't use that word. I'm already having enough issues. But celebrities say so many things about so many different things that they may not really truly be informed on. Like, you went to school for theater, you went to school for drama, you know, or maybe a lot of actors or comedians, they go to school for philosophy. You went to school for philosophy and theater. You know what I'm saying? What do you know about this? Or people who have spent their dedicated their entire life to studying it. You see, um, so things go pseudo super quick. And sometimes people don't realize just because you're not shouting and yelling something, it doesn't mean you're not on that. I was at a store. I remember a year or two ago. It was a while ago. Met a brother. He's a real cool brother. Every time I would drive by there, I would actually stop in just to say peace to him. And I don't remember how we started talking, but there was somebody in the culture community. Peace Omega, you ain't late. You here just in time. Just the fact that you here, and I get to see your name on the screen. I ain't seen it in a long time. Yeah, he brought up somebody in the culture community. He's like, yo, you know who you need to listen to? You need to listen to this person. And I'm like, that dude's a scammer. you know, like now it's come out more and more that he's a scam, but I knew way back that he was a scammer, right? Um, so I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, you know. And he was like, yeah, man, because he talks about this, and I was like, yeah, yeah. Well, I kind of I study some. I'm trying to be kind, I'm like, yeah, I study some other stuff, but yeah. And he was like, nah, man. I mean, it's stuff that'll blow your mind. And I'm just like not wanting to say like, dog, like you just got on that. I've been on that for 20 years now. You know what I mean? Been on it and passed it. You know, and sometimes it's hard for people to imagine that, and that's how it is a lot of times with children, right? Sometimes our children, especially when they hit their teens, they think they have so much wisdom, and they're they're what they consider to be wisdom is really just a lot of emotion, and it's hard for them to imagine that where they're at right now you've already been, maybe more than once, and the reason you're not on it now is because you've already mastered that chamber and you're on to something else. And you just have to kind of give it time. Okay, maybe, all right. You just give a, okay, you give them a smile. you, you know, I remember a sister I met years ago. We had a cool relationship for a while. She was hitting me up like that once because I was somewhere and I used to never wear like button up shirts like this, right? It was always traditional prints. Always, all I had. I didn't own anything else. But I had a button up on that day, which is fine. I mean, it's cool. Um, and she was like, "Oh, you got the European style on," and I was just looking at her like, trying not to say something like my normal reaction, which would be something probably not so civilized. And I'm like, yeah, I'm wearing what I'm wearing. You know what I mean? And she started on this whole diatribe about European clothes and us as Africans and this and that and how we need to get back to our original ways and this and that, right? Um, so I'm just letting her rock out. I'm like, uh huh. Because I'm one of them people who can be there and not be there, right? So I'm just like, uh huh. You know, I'm glad you're feeling the facts. I think it was Trey Styles or Tree Styles. Um, and I think it was maybe a day or two after that, she gave me a phone call. Right, as if Europeans invented buttons and tailored clothes. In fact, the suit design that we know of today actually came from Ethiopia. That's where it was actually invented. Right, and I didn't even hit her with any of that. I was like, oh, okay, just talk because I'm listening. Like I said, I'll let people. In that moment, she was talking herself out of something. I'm not gonna say what it was, but so we actually were going to an event. Went to the event, whatever, whoop woo. It was a cultural event, right? And like maybe a day or two later, she called me. She was like, "I feel so stupid." I was like, "What's up?" She was like, "Well, my elder was at the event and he saw us together, and he was like, 'Oh, I didn't know you knew at the time, Brother Haru. I didn't know you knew Brother Haru.'" And peace, Ladonna. And she was like, yeah, you know, we've been spending time, whatever, whatever. And he was like, that's a deep brother, and like started running some stuff down. So she called me like, why you didn't tell me you were da 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 da? And I was just like, because you were already telling me what I was. So, you know, what you were raving and getting all excited about, like, I was on that like 15 years ago. You know what I'm saying? So I just let you have your little moment. You know what I mean? And it was just like a funny thing. And like she was real embarrassed. She was like, I feel so stupid. She was like, you are really patient to sit there and listen to me. And I thought I was really kind of enlightening you and this and that. You know, I said, you did. You did enlighten me. You told me who you were, you know. So, you know, sometimes people, when they come into movements and into experiences, you know, they may not see it moving exactly how they want to see something move because they don't realize like there's a method here. There's something else is going on that maybe is beyond your current peripheral, you know. And if this is something that you really have faith in, then you got to get into it and you got to rep it straight up. You know, there were times where I got into martial arts systems and I had never used those particular techniques in a real situation, right? But I had to have faith. In fact, there was a time I got into one one system, right? And then and this is really my fault though, but um I had learned a bunch of different blocks and strikes and stuff like that in that particular system. So I was going to. There used to be this club I used to go to back in the days where you could fight, right? You would pay like $10, and then you would just fight somebody. You know, it was called Fight Club, and you know the other person would pay their 10, and it could be any kind of style. Like you wouldn't know what you're gonna face. Like the person may be a wrestler, or the person may be a kickboxer, or a person may get up there and start doing 52 blocks, or you know whatever. And that's what really makes you good. Like it's the unexpected. You know, if you're just fighting people in your school or your dojo that you know, you kind of know how to anticipate what they're gonna do from what they're not gonna do, and that doesn't really make you better, at the art, you know. But I remember one night I went there and I got on the mat, gave the dude a pound, you know what I mean, and got ready, and I said, yeah, I feel pretty confident about these new techniques. I'm gonna try them, man. And he was just going upside my head like it was nothing, you know. Um, it was after the movie, Baba Utu. Yeah, it was after the movie. I think if I remember when that movie came out. So, so we're talking. This had to been two, 2002, around there somewhere. 2002, 2003. So I don't remember when that movie came out, but that's around the time, you know. Um, yeah, like maybe 2003, something like that, you know. But yeah, man, he was just having a field day with me. And the thing is, I was so stuck because I was like, why isn't this, I know I'm throwing them right. Like, why isn't this working? Oh, Fight Club was 1999. Oof. Yeah. I'm getting up there. Yeah, 'cause I guess Brad Pitt was like kind of young, and that. But and Ed Norton was kind of a newbie when that movie came out. So yeah, it was after the movie. But yeah, I'm throwing and just like bow, 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 bow. you know, didn't really have the application. So I just reverted back to what I knew, and I was a little annoyed because I'm like, yo, I've been training in this all this time, like none of it worked. you know, all the angles I was supposed to be able to work, and it just wasn't working. And it was my fault. I remember going back to the person I was training with was and told I was like, yo, we need to talk, and there was a couple of things with it. It was one. It was my application was too rigid, you know. But it's because of the faith I had in that. Like, you tell me to do it this way, I'm gonna do it this way. Even though I know something else that can work for me, I'm here. So this is what I'm representing, right? So that was one. My application was a bit too rigid because um, we hadn't really done enough full contact, right? Which I prefer. I want to see if it really works, man. I don't want to be sitting there all day doing something and they do that a lot of times in martial arts presentations. It's hilarious. They'll be like, okay, let's see, I got a pin. They'll be like, okay, somebody's coming at you with a knife. What do you do? And they'll say, all right, brother, come at me with the knife. And the guy will do like this, and he'll hold it out there. He'd be like, okay, now once he does that, you grab the wrist, you turn it this way, you bring, and the guy's just standing there like this the whole time, and then tap it. You got it, sensei. or they'll say, okay, but guys coming at you like this with a knife, and you'll be like, you might hold it like this. And be like, no, no, brother, you gotta hold it this way. I gotta hold it this way. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes they teach like that. I had an instructor do that once. So he tried to use me for a demonstration. He was like, all right, brother, come at me with the knife and you're going to poke me in the side. We have these rubber knives we use when we train. And I went up to, I just started jigging him. And he was like, whoa, whoa, brother, what you doing? And I was like, if if I was angry and I had a knife in my hand, I'm not gonna just stick you once. Like you think about when, especially if I'm in an environment where I don't want someone to see it, I want to be affected. I'm gonna jig you a bunch of times, and then I'm gonna step off. So all this, that's not gonna work, right? He was real upset with that. Actually, that brother, he did something dirty to me when I did that. He got me back really bad in that actual tournament exhibition. He did something real foul. Because then later he used me to demonstrate a throw. And he was like, now, brother, do exactly what I tell you. Don't move. Don't move. And which was also stupid because I'm like, you trying to throw me and I'm just supposed to stand there and let you throw me. Like, that's not how it works. Like, I'm going to be resisting. He was like, don't resist, brother. I'm going to end up breaking your arm, brother. Don't resist. So I was like, all right, whatever. I did what he asked. And before he goes to flip me over his back, he punches me in the groin. I had no cup on or nothing. You know, um, yeah, I wanted to hurt him. It was an older brother. Older one of the older senseis, but that was because of me embarrassing him with the knife. You know, um, but anyway, so that's that's another thing. But like I said, when you're into something, be committed to it. So like I said, even to the point I'm sitting there at Fight Club getting. And I remember the brother I fought with afterwards. He was like, "Man, thanks for that." It was messed up, but he was like, "Man, thanks for that." He was like, "Man, I let off a lot of steam. I was real stressed out tonight, man. I let off a lot of steam going upside your head." I was like, "Man, get away from me," you know. But that's the thing when you're really committed to something, man. You rep it to the fullest, man. And then by doing that, that's the only way you can build something. That's the only way that nation building can happen on any level, man. You gotta rep it, and sometimes there's sacrifices as a result. Because even like when I brought back to my teacher at the time, I was like, "Yo," he was like, "Oh, I didn't realize you fought that much." I was like, "Yo, I go to Fight Club like 3 times strong." You know what I mean? Which is not good. That's not your body's not made for that much torture. But at that time, I was like, eyes wanted to fight like every day. I was in gladiator mode all the time. You know what I mean? And he was like, "Oh, all right, but then we need to do more combat. Well, I'm gonna show you how you use this stuff in combat." I'm like, "Yeah, like I'm not trying to be sitting up here, you, you know what I mean? In the school, I'm not doing this for that. I'm doing it to be able to thump. You know what I mean? I fight. you know, um, not I'm just going out there picking fights with people. But so like I said, it was my fault and it was kind of his. Never entered that fight club type of arena. Yeah, it's not necessary. You know what I'm saying? To get good at an art. Um, it's a different kind of experience. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to do it. To get good. You get good people you could spar with. You're good. People who are a lot better than you. You don't necessarily have to go to a fight club. It's just that probably. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the experience. You meet a lot of interesting people, and I just like dealing with the unexpected. You know what I mean? Because there's like a style that these bikers used to do. They still do it, probably called Jailhouse Rock. And Jailhouse Rock is similar to 52 Blocks. It's more defense and whatnot, and less offense, a lot of sneaky punches and stuff like that. Um, but theirs is different. But it's similar to 52, right? And it's an interesting style of fight against because a lot of law enforcement tries to use those techniques, right? But like even when you fight against people who do 52, a lot of 52 came out of it came out of Kemet, it's ancient system Montu, but on the chain gang, right? It got developed even further because a lot of brothers down there they learned how to fight shackled, which came over from on the ships. When they were having those mutinies on the ships, yeah, in the movie they'll show you like, oh, they found a nail and broke the lock. No, brothers was fighting shackled, you know. Um, so the same thing on the chain gang. You had cats who was fighting correctional officers and escaping into the swamps and in the woods down south back in the days because they had these techniques where they could fight, with their hands together, shackle. It's called shackle hand style, right? So when you go to those experiences, like you learn those kind of things, and then you fighting people that's coming at different angles, and now I'm not in fighting shape now. You know what I mean? I really be a stress ball, now, man. But yeah, man. So that's what that was, man. But yeah, I mean, I got stories for days. I fought a very popular um, motivational speaker. He used to come there back, and I'm not gonna say his name, and I'm gonna name drop. Maybe I'll say it in private one day. But um, you would never believe it. Like he used to be up in. He's a big dude, and I didn't know who he was until like years later. But he's like one of the biggest motivational speakers on the planet. You know. But yeah, like all kind of people come through there. You know what I mean? I heard this gay dude had best 52 in Rikers Island. I can't. No one has the best 52 like that. Don't nah. Nobody's got the best 52 because 52 is not just something you do with your hands. It's something you do with your brain. You know what I mean. In fact, it's mainly something you do with your brain. 52 is based upon its mathematics. You know what I mean. Um, I have a feeling you're probably referring to somebody who's no longer living. You're probably referring to Mother Dare, um, who's no longer alive. You know what I mean? I just have a feeling, right? Um, but nah, and if you are referring to Mother Dare, nah, he wasn't that nice at 52 like that, you know. Um, but either way, nah, it's a way of thinking. All fighting is in the mind, all of it. Like kicking and punching. Anybody can learn how to kick and punch. Like that's not that. I mean, little children be in the dojo getting black belts. You know what I mean? So yeah, Mother Dear. Yeah, Nah, that's urban myths. You know what I mean? Like, um, he was a big dude. You know, he's a big dude, Diesel. You know what I mean? And he used to do a lot of real beastly, messed up things to people. But as far as best in fit, nah, like no, not even close. But he knew some 52. He did know some, but nah. But you know, a little bit will go a long way, especially when you have the intimidation of being like 6'4" and big, and you're known for knocking people out and then taking them. You know what I mean? Sometimes people get frozen with fear, and they give up the fight. You know, before it even happens. As long as that happens, you know what I'm saying? It's not always a person is so nice with their hands. You know, that's why I don't play games like that. You know, I don't slap box. I never was into that. Where you like, nah, that's things that people do to fill you out and then try to decide what they're gonna do to you later. You know what I mean? So yeah, yeah, but don't even like that's he's dead. You know what I mean? So he's out of here. They killed him in Clinton Max. They threw him off the tier, stabbed him up, then threw him off the tier. You know. So yeah, but anyway, I don't. All that stuff is gory. But yeah, so what I was really just speaking about was commitment. You know what I mean? When you're getting into something and you make a decision, what are you repping? You know, and sometimes we face so much hell and so many trials because we refuse to rep anything, and we kind of and being a gray man is I'm not you know negating the value of being able to blend in, but you know there's a pool of food, especially in the West, and when you don't separate yourself and show that you're not a part of that pool of food, you know what I mean, people will they'll devour you, you know, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. You know, you have to be able to show that no, I'm over here. I'm not with the food. I'm not a part of the food stock. You know, I'm of a different cut. And a lot of times, who wants the hassle of trying to figure that out? You know what I mean? You think about it, even in amorous situations. And I'm going to say this for the guys. You know, you meet a young lady you like, but let's say if she's of a different culture. I'm talking about when you're young, right? If you got to go through hoops just to spend time with her, you know you're gonna go to the what we call the easy young lady, right? Most of the time, depending on what you're looking for. Uh, so you'll go to the easier prey. And what makes her not easy prey is just the fact that she has a culture that she's representing and committed to. You see, it's just that simple. So that goes across the board for so many things. Brutality, you know, spiritual attacks, psychic attacks, things like that. That ability to separate and show yourself as something different is very possible. But Mara, you still trying to get in the hit like there's 47 people of it, almost 50, because it fluctuates between 47 and 50. I appreciate it though, but you know how they are with the likes. Their fingers don't. It's too hard to hit the button. but but yeah, man. So yeah, man. You decide what you rep and what you're gonna stand for, and where your convictions drop. You know, yeah, they drop. Where your convictions are, and you have to make some decisions, man. If you're gonna live that, and if that's gonna be your liberty, because Anu is not Babylon, and Babylon is death. You know what I'm saying? Babylon is your indecisiveness. Babylon is your I'm gonna do this sometimes. You know what I mean? I know what I'm supposed to do from a righteous perspective, but I'm gonna do this too. That's Babylon. You know, where there's always a blending of things that shouldn't be blended. There's a blending of flesh that shouldn't be blended. You know, I'll take my flesh and blend with anything that will make me feel like I just conquered it. You know, that goes back to ancient Greece. You know, it was okay for me to jump on another man as long as I was the dominant. that was okay because I was considered the conqueror. If I was a knight in the Victorian era and I jumped on my page, who was over there shining my armor and my shield, as long as he was the recessive, it was cool because that experience was considered a conquering, you know. So the blending of what shouldn't have been blended was okay as long as there was aggression behind it. You see what I'm saying? Um, you see that in movies all the time, man. When two people are engaging in an illicit affair, they be throwing each other against the refrigerator, the walls, and ripping stuff and making all kind of weird noises and biting on each other's face and stuff like that. Um, of course, children watch. They're like, "Oh, that's what it's supposed to be like my first time." You know what I mean? Like we slap each other first. We're arguing, then we slap each other. Then I just take her and just DDT her against the refrigerator. You know what I mean? And she just drags me over to the door and just starts slamming my testicles into it. Yam, yam, yam. Then we make passionate love. Like, what is that? What kind of madness is that? You know what I mean? That's Babylon. So that's what say you always have to leave Babylon here first. It's not about going and moving in the middle of the woods. You know what I mean? You could live in the middle of any urban environment, but you have to leave that way of thinking and that way of blending what should not be blended, because that's what it always begins with, because illicit blends are a form of spiritual adultery. I'm gonna do a little bit of this, I'm gonna do a little of that. If you were to mate and they commit adultery, you wouldn't be so in love with them, but you would also understand that the value and the quality of what the union is supposed to be ain't gonna be, right? And I want you to understand the significance of destroying or blending what shouldn't blend, especially like even in the union. I know people like to use terms like goddess a lot. You know what I mean? And I've said many times there's no such thing as that. And I know a lot of sisters, they pretend like they didn't hear one and they just keep using it. You keep being foolish if you want. Go ahead. Be as stupid as you want to be, or learn something. When you genderize a deity like that, you make it human. So now you recreate your deity in your image. That's weak. You know, you just genderized it. It had no gender. It has an energy pool. So if I'm God, my woman is God, but she's God's replica, right? So she's a clone. But to call her a goddess is just to make up something that doesn't even exist. And es or et means smaller version. So now I'm diminishing her. But I recognize that my total and full liberation comes through both of us. You see, just like I was liberated from the prison of perfection in a heavenly existence through the opening of my mother. When I came through my mother's womb, I'm free. Like Biggie Smalls said, in this world, Earl and fly girls or something like that, right? But I'm here, like I'm out. We can make some things happen now because I'm not confined to being connected to everything and everyone by only being a spirit entity when I was in the Akashic realm. But now that I've fallen to the dust and I've gone through the dust of my mother's stardust, and I come through that grove, that sacred grove, that pathway now, I can do other things. But in order for me to reclaim the life, because now once I also came into the world of death, that's so it's tricky. You get something, you lose something. That's how life works. I breathe. I got oxygen. Oh man, I had to give it back. All right, let me try to take some more. No matter how long I hold it, damn, I had to give it back. I take something, I got to give something. The universe say, yeah, man, get that back. That's mine. You know. So, but I give it back. It's different when it goes back now. So that's the thing, man. We were liberated from the spirit through the woman, and we'll be liberated from the flesh through the woman. So and the same thing, man and woman. But what that essentially means is the value of the union. The value of the union is life. of the masculine and feminine union. The value of that is life. You know what I mean? That's when we can reclaim and re-experience the absence of death that we knew when we were in the unseen space. You see, that was the key. And then when we came here, now we started to feel the value, but also the curse of separation. Because the curse of separation is the value and the concept of hate, right? You know, and hate is cool. Hate is cool like love is cool. You know, sometimes you'll love somebody, and that love will be toxic and it'll poison you, right? And we say, I still love you though, right? Um, it's okay to hate people because hate just means to disconnect, right? We don't want to be connected to everything and everyone. It's all right to say, no, I hate that. I hate them people. I hate that person, right? We're taught not to do, oh, you preach and hate. The main people who have an issue with preaching hate is the main people who do hateful things, you know? Um, but if I preach love, it's okay. So I can preach to always be like this because love is connection. But I can never preach to be like this. It's got to always be this. But isn't this what makes things? On, off, on, off, on, off, right? Male, female, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, push, pull, right? So love and hate, you need the two of those in a yin yang type of formation in order to bring things forward. You need separation and you need connection. You know, you ever really get into real tantric exercises? You know, there's certain things that you can do when you separate. You take your lingam and separate from the yoni, right? Real simple exercise, fellas. You know, nine deep, right? Nine deep, nine shallow, then separate. Then go back in, three deep, three shallow, separate, rinse and repeat. And watch what it does. I'm telling you, works every time. Every single time. I'm telling you, I wouldn't tell you something about, you know, you're going to have red marks on your back. But you know, again, in that process, it's the separate, right? And what happens with separation, there's an experience of magnetism. There's a come back, right? You know, and then you enter again, and it brings things to what's happening. You keep doing that, and you try to do that over the course of 30 to 40 minutes. It mounts, it mounts and 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 mounts. Mathematics, though, right? And those mathematics work every time. Um, I'm telling you. All right, I just want to, I don't want to, go too far in that, but probably like, yeah, you can talk about stabbing, but that was with a rubber knife. You can't talk about that. Um, but yeah, so that's the thing, man. There's a power that comes in that union that we've been tricked out of. You know, just like there's a power in men recognizing when they're doing something that's not manly and stopping. You know, or the value of women recognizing the value once again, or the quality once again of being women, and how that can equalize them with the man. You know, um, when I'm in my role and you're in your role, we're going to do two different things. That's okay. That's our culture. But that's when we can stand shoulder to shoulder, like, Sarah and Set, and never had, you know, where that Trinity can stand together. Like, yeah, because Nebuchadnezzar is like, hey, I'm mastering the body. I'm the master of the body, and all set is like, yeah, well, I'm mastering, the throne, and Osir is like, well, I'm mastering the eye. I'm here. I'm doing my part. You doing your part. You doing your part, and that's what brings forth. That's what creates God. It's like the Buddhists, when they chant, they create God. You see, our unity and our oneness creates that. And of course, there's many gods, right? It's like back in Nigeria, families they have their own. Everybody has their own. Every family has their own patron deity. You sometimes have a Osayin family. That's the deity. For that particular family. Even though you might have people in the family who are initiated to something else, it might not even be anyone initiated to Osayin, but that's the archetype that may be for that family. So that's the amazingness of it. You think about these multitudinal points of deities that can rise from the planet's surface, and they're deities that are born through union. They're not just born because you came here, but when you get with your natural complement and counterpart, and you conjoin, and you go through your push pull process, your truth and your lie, your truth and your lie. Because what is the lie? Separation. We know it's the lie, right? So even when I'm gonna put my hands like this. I'm not gonna put them, that way. But if we're connected through the process, and we're representing as one, we would call that the truth moment. And then when we separate and come apart, we would call that the lie. Now, why is that? But you need that tension in order to create, to bring forth the understanding, and to bring forth the child, even, right? But it's a lie because we're always connected. The molecules between my hands are touching each other. So it's a lie because you're never actually disconnected, but we're able to live the fantasy of the thought of being disconnected just for a moment. That's an important thing. And through that, we bring forth deity. So when we reascend through that rapturous state, now there's new entities that are reascending, ascending. You know, um, there's so many different ways you can go with that, but that's just an example, right? So a lot of the teachings inside of our new deal with that realization and that refinement process, and seeing that for each member. That's why every woman is covered. We don't have any women in our new who are not looked over and cared for by a man in our new. Doesn't exist, right? And we don't have any men in our new. Um, well, a few, but most of the men, the majority of the men in our new, are responsible for a woman, right? Um, because even brother, sister, in a platonic sense, even when it's filial love, you know, which it's between your parent and you, there's still an interaction of masculine and feminine that will take place, even if it's not amorous, and that's what brings us to like some of our greatest revelations. So that's mathematics, man. you know Beyond the 48 laws of self power. But I just wanted to share that for those who are applying and wanting to come in and things like that. Be ready to rep to the fullness, because no one's really playing that 1 foot in, 1 foot out game. And the ones who do, they don't last long, and there's nothing to say to them when they're no longer here. I get people who try to play that game, and then they'll maybe leave, and then they'll be like, "Oh, but I'll still stay connected to Chief." No, you won't. I opened up the door of the ark, and you played around. I have to tend to those still on the ark. I'm not thinking about you. You out there drowning. Hey, you had your opportunity. I have no guidance. I have nothing for you. You know, um, because I surely am no idol. You better go now, climb up the mountain. See, that's the thing where I was talking about with the Orisha earlier. We was having in a study group. How could I truly get up to the heavens until I learn how to master the earth? So yeah, it's a process going through the Orisha experience. It's not something you stay in forever. That would be foolish. Like, how could you stay in anything forever when we live in such a transient reality? Everything ends here. All of our relationships, and that man or that woman you so in love with, if that relationship is going to end. It's going to end, whether whether in death or whether through just the transformation of the relationship. There may come a point where you two are so old you don't even remember each other. You're looking at each other. Who are you? You know, your mind isn't even working like that anymore. So you don't even have history. You don't even have a memory of the relationship anymore. Everything ends. You know, um, and when we get stuck on certain plateaus, uh, our journey ends, and then we have to start from the bottom of the mountain again. That sucks. That sucks. That's not what we came here for. We came here to ascend higher and further than what sent us, than what made kicked us out. You know, when we said, "I will soar higher than your throne," and our Father said, "Cool, that's cool, but you got to go down there and do a process to do it. You got to prove that." You see, you just can't jump in my face. You know, again, I'll take it back. I know I'm always using martial arts examples. Sometimes cats would come to different schools I was at, and like, I want to learn about this system. Really, they want to prove that their system is better. So you, as the even when I had dojos, I used to have two dojos. I never fought anybody. They come to the school. I mean, not really. Maybe nothing I would call a fight. You know what I mean? But I would usually sick my students on them. All right, well here, man, you could work out with my student, right? You can't fight me. You gotta earn, get through my students, and then maybe you can, you know, get punched in the chest by me. But no, I'm not doing that, right? So it's the same thing, man. You know, in order to soar and be the next step in evolution, as the universe is so desirous of us to be, we have to go through a process. But unfortunately, a lot of times we just claim that we're the next step. That's what children do when they claim they have wisdom that their parents don't. Wisdom is experience, and it's the applied experience that's applied from knowledge. You don't have enough knowledge to have that much experience, so therefore you don't have that much wisdom. You only have the wisdom that you've gotten from a little bit of knowledge that you have, that you assume is something new, where there is nothing new. It's just new ways of applying it, and there hasn't been a collective evolving of all beings on the planet for everything to be that new. I mean, we have stories of flying carpets, so flying vehicles ain't no big deal. We have images of electricity in Kemet. I mean, how are they doing um, eye surgery in ancient Kemet and heart surgery? I mean, but eye surgery. And then how are you designing all of those rooms? And I mean, you go into your house into the basement without the lights turned on and see how far you make it. We're not talking about, 40, 50 feet underground. you know, um, how is that happening? And they, always talk about, well, there was a complex series of mirrors. No, there was electricity, right? Things that we think are new are not that new. They're not new. Anti-gravity machines, things like that. It is our duty to evolve, man. It is our duty to do that, man. And we evolve to that next step, and we become that next step through the rejoining of ourselves. You fall as a we're looking for that twin flame. But when the deities fully walk the earth, it's because that masculine and feminine energy have linked each other. So now this experience becomes something new, because when you first fall, you're a human on the planet. Big deal, right? We already know that story. I live, I go to school, I get a job, I retire, I die. That's the human story. Okay. So the interesting thing would be a deity on the earth. Now what would that be like? You see? But again, like I said, we put so many lies in way of our truth that we never really get to see our truth. And then when it comes time to invest ourselves in the process and the climb, well, I don't feel like doing it. Okay. So like I said, nothing happened. There was no big event or anything like that, but it was just something that was on my heart with people wanting to come into our new, and just me wanting to tell them like, yo, be ready for the climb and be ready to represent. Um, and sitting on the outskirts and like I'm just watching. Is nobody wants that. This is a nation building experience, and it's an effective one. This is not in theory. You know, there's land, there's resources, there's people, there's talent, there's skills. So this is not something that's just like one day we gonna. No, we got it. So now it's about cultivating and refining what's here, as opposed to just thinking about what you're gonna get. Take that completely out of your mind, because the only time you'll experience freedom is when you take that out of your mind. When you truly allow the creator to flow through you and be through you, then you'll be free. Outside of that, you'll always be trapped by your thoughts, which is set. You'll always be trapped by your thoughts. You know. Well, I think I'm this type of person. I'm trying to I is a prison. Those are bars. That letter I, that's the bars that you're encased inside of. So you just say, you know what, man, not me. Forget about me. Let the creator flow through. As soon as that happens, you're gonna experience a freedom like you never experienced before. And here's the cool thing about it is that the creator always leaves a residue. So you'll have that vision and that experience from when they were there. You know, it's like, being a child and your pops picks you up and puts you on his shoulders. You're at the fairgrounds, at the carnival, and you look around like, oh wow, and you're like, all right, man, get down. And you back on the floor again, on the ground, but you remember. I remember. You see, so now you have that residue still in you, man. So fly up to where the deities are, man. Climb up that mountain, and in order to do that, you got to master these earth elements, but don't get stuck in them. I worship the wind. I worship the trees. You tripping. You tripping. You got to know the difference between being subject to something and working with something, and then understanding the relationship, the dynamic as a master. It's like love. Some people let love rule all over them until it destroys them. You know what I mean? Um, I'm a master of love, but I'm not a slave to love. But I'm definitely, I got that joint mastered. you know, um, and that's the point. So even when you look at the beautiful mountain and the river and the sun and the moon, oh my goodness, it's so gorgeous. And I worship, and that's Mama Moon and that's Papa Sun, and yeah, it's all cool and everything. It's cute, when you're at a certain level. But just remember that all of that is after effect. That's not really what the moon looks like. So your job is to find out, well, what's the spirit of the moon, Osu, or the spirit of the sun, Orun, or the earth, you know, like what is the spirit Onile of that sits inside of them, and then what is my relationship to that spirit? Like, because I'm a spirit that manifested in the human body, and that spirit manifested in the earth body, right? So are we the same thing, or are we something different, right? And what do I need from it, right? Or is everything just here to serve me, which is such a childish kind of thought. If I eat from the earth is giving me something, but everything's about reciprocity. What is it that I'm compelled to give back to the earth? If the sun warms me, what am I compelled to give back to the sun? If this tree provides me shade, what am I compelled to get? Because my little offering and my little prayer, I mean, my intention is powerful, but what else? It's got to be something else. You might say, oh well, I left an offering by the tree. That's cool. I'm not negating that. But do we have a larger responsibility? You know, like maybe the tree doesn't want to be a tree anymore, or maybe what we know as trees today is not really the end all be all for trees. The planet has gone through. enormous changes, you know, over the course of millions of years, right? So who pushed that evolution? You know, and it takes a long time. We're not talking about, okay, 50 years, you know, the trees are going to be all pink. But um, what am I supposed to be pouring into these entities? And what am I supposed to be doing so that just by my very presence, that I change the ions around me, I change the atmosphere around me so that plants begin to grow and become something different just because I came into the room. You know, that's our new science. That's what we want, you know. How important is ancestral lineage, bloodline, and veneration compared to these nature spirits from our new perspective? Well, um, I wouldn't compare them to nature spirits because they're not the same realm. You know, I don't think that's the proper um, approach. That would be like saying how important is an orange in comparison to beef. You know what I mean? Um, it's two different kingdoms. So the ancestral kingdom is a different kingdom than the nature kingdom, right? Um, but the important thing to look at in all things is what is obedient to the creator, right? Sometimes people are ancestors because of their disobedience. And I know we put a certain mystique and we immediately angelicalize those who are ancestors. But that's not the most intelligent thing to do. If you really were to evolve and do your work that you're supposed to do on the planet, you wouldn't be an ancestor. You wouldn't be. I mean, you might be in the minds of people, but you really wouldn't be because you'd be inaccessible, right? Who would go through this whole journey just to stick around? Spirit or no spirit, like why would I still want to be here? Like I'm still on the earth, but I recognize that my origins are not the earth. I recognize that my DNA comes from outer space. So why am I still here? Shouldn't I go back to my home or be recycled into something else here? You know, the idea that sometimes we get so stuck in that is it's a very old one. You know, when when early man begins to understand that life is full of a lot of strife and struggle, there has to be an answer. And one of the answers that some produced foolishly without much research was the soul, right? Eternity is the answer to suffering. You know, enslaved people were told that, oh, you just go through it now because in the by and by I'm going to be with my Lord, right? So it's okay as long as there's eternity. I'll go through anything as long as I know I have eternity. So how would I have eternity? By having a soul. So the same thing with ancestors, you know, a lot of times it's a feeling of consolation. What if you were told, well, there ain't no ancestors, you die, you just going? What about that one? So use your time wisely that you're here. What would we do then? Probably loot, panic. You know, people be out raping people. You know what I mean? People go crazy. This is it. Because then you'd have to actually care about those who came after you. In my short time, let me do something for my offspring. Let me leave them something. Let me leave them some land. Let me leave them some wealth. Let me leave them some wisdom, right? But if I'm going to be an ancestor one day, I could save it for them and I'll just talk to them from the altar, right? So it's a different thing. But when you look at nature, you're looking at more obedience, right? Um, Squirrels act like squirrels. You know what I mean? Panthers act like panthers. You see, in Bantu culture, the creator wasn't as important as the ancestors. That's not true. That's totally false. Yeah. Um, when you say Bantu culture, that's even that statement itself. Do you know how vast Bantu culture is? Nah. See, that's the stuff we got to get away from. That's the pseudo stuff. When we say, because that's like saying, well, back in Africa, there's no such thing as back in Africa. You know, Bantu is a language. And there are people who are classified as Bantu, but they're a group of people. So there's not just one. There's no there's no Bantu land. Like you go there, oh, look on a map. Where's Bantu land? There's no such thing. That's a large group of people that you just refer to. When you say Bantu. All right. So, and on top of that, are you them? Bantu, yeah, you still not make that's still nah. Just leave that alone, man. Like I'm trying to help you out here. I'm trying to teach you something. That's wrong. That's pseudo. That's wrong. Bantu mythology. Which tribe within Bantu? There's no such thing as that. We have things that we call like Bantu cosmology, but that's like saying American mythology, right? So, what is American mythology? Is it the natives who came here after the Twa? Is it the Twa? Is it Geechee Gullah? Is it Dixieland country stuff? You know what I mean? What is American mythology? Is it what we talk about now in this current dispensation? There's no such thing as that, right? That's the stuff we got to get away from, man. We use the continent as this mystical place to reference any theory that we want to come up with. You know, well, back in the days, the women ran things back in Africa. Where? What tribe? What nation? What clan? What time period? It's not true. It's just not true. You see. So, nah, that's what you got to get out of, man. Even when you say like nature spirits versus ancestral spirits, what ancestors? Which ones? Right? And if we say the Bantu, are you Bantu? I know you're not because you wouldn't have used that terminology, right? So there has to be an evolving of things. That's what I'm saying. Like there was a time we looked and we said, yeah, back to Africa. We got to be smarter than that. It's in this by now. There is no back to Africa. We're in Africa. Like, and when I say be smarter than that and be more intelligent, tell me back to where? Madagascar, back to Ethiopia, back to Zanzibar, back to Tanzania, back to Mali, back to Gambia, back to Guinea. Like, tell me where I'm going back to. You know what I mean? But we're smart enough now that we got maps. We have history that we can read things and learn about different areas. Okay, I'm going back to Somalia. That's where I'm going back to. Going back to Morocco. you know, but when you make those kind of blanket statements, you lose it. You lose the value of what could be, and a lot of times we're taught to do that so people don't have to be accountable for anything. And not just us. I'm saying the people who did things to us don't have to be accountable, right? If we say, "Oh man, I got to go back to Africa," that doesn't tell me a story. That doesn't even tell me how I got here. That doesn't even tell me what port I left from. Doesn't tell me anything, right? If I say I have to go back to Benin, it's very possible I was taken from Benin. Okay. Now I can start tracing accountability. Which ships sailed out of Benin? Who were the collaborators in Benin who still live there? Who's responsible? Who was I in Benin? Why did they pick me? You see, what was I different? Was I might have sailed out of there, but was I actually from Benin? Was I from somewhere else? And someone said, take these foreigners and send them across the water. They're not even our people anyway. Did that happen? You see, that's what I'm saying. We have to be smarter today. You know, we want to congeal because it's so easy to congeal everyone on the continent, but they don't even congeal themselves. You could have one place 3 hours from each other. They don't even speak the same language, and they won't intermarry. But then we'll look at it from a distance and we just smash it together. That's not wise, And I'm not speaking about separation, but it's foolish to believe that everyone who's brown with nappy hair is you. That's just not the case. That's not even accurate genetically. So it's just we got to get out of that pseudo way of thinking and find our real people, you know. But you could throw out any mythology. That don't hold no power for me. Well, Bantu did it. But again, what the hell? Who? That's like saying in Yoruba mythology, there is no Yoruba mythology because the Yoruba Muslims have their own mythology. The Yoruba Christians have their own mythology. The Yoruba Hebrews have their own mythology. How do you look at African history? I don't look at it. What is African? See what I'm saying? I need you to follow along what I'm saying. Like, what is that? Again, I'll ask this question. How do you look at North American ancestry? What does that mean? If you say your ancestry is North American, what's the first thing somebody's going to say? Where? What part? Who? Right? There's a lot of people in North America. There's a lot of different kinds of people in North America, right? I know what you mean. I need you to understand what I mean. There's a lot of different kinds of people in North America. That doesn't pinpoint anything, right? So, am I concerned about African ancestry? No, not one bit. Zero. I have no care or concern for African ancestry. That would be foolish of me. Because then that means now Massa did finally convince me that I'm from Africa. I'm from New Orleans, the Creole. Yeah, Creole is just mixed. That ain't about nothing. F that. I wouldn't take that title either. You know what the word Creole means? I did a segment on it. You don't want that. That's not the one you want. You see? But Massa finally convinced me that I'm from Africa. Now, yeah, we know that's the cradle of civilization. We know that that's where things began physically. But we also know at one point that all these continents were connected and were one. We also know at one point that we existed on this planet in non physical form. So if I get caught up in this new place that we call Africa, which is only a geographic location, then I miss out on my real soul's journey, my real story. No, my story is that the earth is my home. You pick a continent, that's mine. You know what I mean? Pick a state, that's mine. Pick a block, that's mine. That's where I'm from. So I'm concerned about that. But to localize myself to one place is that's cultural suicide. And that's what I say, go back to Africa. Why would I go back to Africa when I was here first before you? Why would I do that? I was here before the Scandinavians came. You know, one thing that's important to always remember, the word Viking, it was only during the Nazi era that the Germans, because of the Third Reich, because of what they were doing in terms of their ideas of the Aryan, creating this Aryan, or not create, yeah, fabricating this historical idea of the perfect Aryan, that they're the ones who actually started to promote and push that Viking concept forward, and they would always display Vikings as these gigantic, blonde, blue-eyed individuals. But that was false. That was totally made up. It was totally made up. The word Viking only means seafarer. That's it. There were Vikings from all over the world. those quote unquote pirates of the Caribbean that y'all call, those, they were called Vikings before they were called pirates. You see? So this concept that we were just in Africa eating yams, you know what I'm saying, and building pyramids is false. It's totally false. We were on boats, moving all around the seven seas. You know what I'm saying? So I don't limit myself like that. And if you were smart and wise, you wouldn't either, right? And if you ain't smart and wise tonight, you are. From this point moving forward, don't fall for that trick. That's a trick that they gave to us. Yeah, you from Africa. You sure? You sure? Because Iran and Iraq are hot. That seems like a place I would be. It's hot there. And America has got some beautiful land. You mean to tell me I wasn't where all this beautiful land is and all these rolling hills? This was yours? I find that hard. I find that hard to fathom. I really do. Like we know where you came from. We know we got that. We have your history. We don't even have the history of one of my oldest languages, Medu Neter. There's no historical record of when it developed or when it first came. It was just like showed up. That's how old Medu is, right? So how could you pinpoint me to one place if you haven't even figured out my history yet? When are you starting me? You see what I'm saying? This reminds me of the segment you did on Arisha about cassava being a new archetype. Oh, it'll come back up. Uh, to Nigeria insofar as it is indigenous to the Americas. Yeah, that's that again. Those back home mistakes. Like we do things here, and like I said before, you make Africa under your feet. We don't realize sometimes the specialness that you're reading about in those books was you, and that's why you were chosen to be taken here. Just think about that for a second. Think about the idea of a muse. This segment is way longer than I wanted to be. It's cool though, because I haven't been on in a while. But you think about the idea of a muse. If I know there's a sister, and you have sisters like this in the entertainment industry, in Hollywood in particular, they're called muses. When different writers and screenplay writers, if they get blocks, they have people come live with them, right? Who can inspire them, right? So let's say if I have somebody like that, and I write a blockbuster hit and I make millions of dollars, right? And we're all in the screenwriters guild, and everybody knows this person was my muse. What am I gonna do? Hey, let them come stay with me. We're gonna start trading this person around, because I know wherever this person is, I'm going to prosper. So it's difficult for us to imagine, because we come from that amazing grace type of spirit where we're just filthy rags, a wretch like me, to imagine that the greatness of Africa might have been us. Because how else could we have come to America and recreate Africa here? How else could we have come to Washington, D.C. and design it just like Kemet if we didn't design Kemet? And I don't mean looking at every Kemite and saying that was us. I'm saying let's call us Tribe X, right? Maybe Tribe X was in Kemet and built Kemet. Then maybe Tribe X traveled to Ghana and Nigeria and built those places. And then maybe Tribe X was shipped off because people saw, whoa, they did that and they did that. We want them. And then maybe Tribe X was shipped off to the Americas and to Brazil and built those places in Cuba. Maybe that happened. Not we were all one people over there, and they just grabbed up some random people or some people who had some skills and said, all right, come on over here. And we're masterminds, but we just don't feel like doing the physical labor. So you design that like that, you do that, you do that, like carry that piece of wood over there, put those bricks over there, put that. Come on, come on, come on. Please, we got to get out of that. You still looking for greatness somewhere else, and you don't realize that's the trick they played on you. That's why they changed your name. They didn't change your name just because they were being cruel and evil and wanted to steal your culture. They changed your name so you would not figure out who you were slash are. That's why your name was changed. Just so you wouldn't figure out who you are. Because you could take on a African name. You could take that on today, right now. What does it do? It gives you a little bit more pride. Yes, it's an identity statement, absolutely. But it doesn't tell you your birthright because you took it on. You found it in a book. It sounded cool. Maybe you got initiated and somebody said, hey, this is gonna be your name now. But it doesn't trace it. It doesn't trace you to anywhere. But what if you were able to find some old records and you actually did find out that I'm from Benin? That would change things. That would change things greatly. Because then you could look at what region in Benin did I come from? What time period did they first take my first ancestor? And now, once I know that, I know what the name of my God was. I know what some of my talents were. You see? But this very generic kind of like this group, that group, and you trying to claim all these people who have nothing to do with you. You know, maybe I'll put a link in the description. I was watching a video a while ago where this brother, he was Habeshai, and he was asking different sisters, different Habeshai sisters, like what kind of race would they date if it was anybody outside of Habeshai? Most of them were like, nope, none. And they were no, they were asking brothers and sisters, and like a lot of the guys was like maybe Spanish, you know what I mean, and like one girl was like black, but most of them were like I wouldn't date a black person. I want you to think about that for a second. How many of you consider Habeshai or Ethiopian and Eritrean people to be black? But they I'm not black, I'm Habeshai. You're black. They even know, no, we're different. Yeah, we may live on the same landmass, but we're different people. And that's okay. That's all right. We're different people. Doesn't mean we have to be at war just because we're different people, but we're different. Even genetically, we are different, right? Um, so this whole like fictitious journey, pseudo, you know, where we're claiming things that ain't us, and we haven't realized that some of the stuff we be claiming we've surpassed, but we're stuck because we haven't realized how far we've gone, or where we can actually go next. And I'm not negating anything on the continent. I mean, anybody who knows me knows I spend the majority of my year on the continent. you know, usually uh, pre, all of this mess that's going on right now. But I'm just saying, man, we got to get out of that pseudo stuff and just anytime we want to prove a point, we just pull up some obscure mythology that we don't even know. You pull up a mythology, first I want to know if you've ever lived there. Do you speak that language? If not, don't pull that up. You probably don't understand what was being said because you don't have any context. You know what I'm saying? So start with you. And that's what they, quote unquote, never wanted you to do. They let you claim a whole bunch of stuff. But there's certain words, if I use on this is what got me locked down on Instagram, which I still am to this day. This is what made NC lose his show and have to go and apologize. You work out the riddles. This is what made back in the days Minister Farrakhan. They kept putting it in the paper when he used a certain term to classify certain people who were in a certain who were misusing their religion. He wasn't talking about that, but he was talking about those who misuse it. You could claim stuff all day, but if you claim this particular group, that's when the trouble comes. Why is that? Why I can claim anything. I could say I'm this religion, that religion, that religion. Because this one here is not a religion, it's actually a people. Because you can be those people and not practice that religion. So when you say I'm this, I'm not gonna say the word because I know what's gonna happen. Peace occultism. If I say I'm that, then I'm claiming that bloodline. Why is that such a big deal? I could say I'm Yoruba. Nobody makes a big deal about it, right? I can say I'm Zulu. I mean, everybody, those were the warriors. Nobody makes a big deal. If I say this one, they ready to shut you down. That should tell you something. All right, Tribe X, or as the most honorable Elijah Muhammad would say, Shalom, Shalom Akilo. You know, yeah, Shalom, Shalom. Um, but I'm just saying, like, it's right in front of your face. It's been in front of your face the whole time. But they've been throwing smoke and mirrors in front of you and making you claim stuff that don't even exist. You go to the continent and say, "Can somebody tell me Bantu mythology?" They look at you like, "What? What are you talking about?" or go there and say, because Dr. Ben said it because his name was Yosef ben Yaakmin. Yosef ben Yaakmin. His name said it. He told you who he was. I'm an Ethiopian. But we ignored that. See, we always ignore the important part because we're so damn hard headed. We ignored that part and listened to when he just started talking about, well, tell me about Africa. I am telling you about Africa. I am the representation. Me with my big lips and dark skin. I'm talking about Dr. Yosef Ben Yaakmin. And I'm telling you, and I'm an Ethiopian. You know the three letters, right? We just like kind of didn't. I don't know what you're talking about. See, that was dumb. Yeah, you remember that? Remember that debate? He was getting frustrated during that debate, though. I remember that because because dude was being dodgy. Like Dr. Ben had him, but dude was like being slick, and he was like, "What?" Like Dr. Ben was being real, like he was in his living room, just he was being real informal. He was like, "Are you kidding me?" you know, I remember that debate. Yeah, but there really is no debate. That's the thing of it. There is no debate. And like Dr. Ben said, I don't need you to confirm what I am. That's insane. Why would I go to you to confirm what I am when I was that before you started to claim to be it with no historical or genetic proof? You know, yes, people in the Congo, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana. I mean, Ethiopia. When we say scattered through all the nations, you got to pay attention to that. So that's the key. You will be scattered throughout all of the nations. What does that mean? That means I'm going to go to Mexico and find them. I'm going to go to America and find. I'm going to go to Cuba and find them. I'm going to go to the Congo and find them. I'm going to go to Australia and find them. I'm going to go to Japan and find them. I'm going to go to Europe and find them. You see? I'm going to go to Hawaii and find them. See, sometimes that's what I'm saying. We're looking for sacred land and things elsewhere and not realizing that the sacred land and the rise is here. It's where you're at because you were scattered all throughout. There's no specific place where you go to be redeemed back to your culture other than here. because you were scattered all throughout for a reason. I mean, if you scatter seed all over the place, what are you trying to do? That's a takeover. That's a spiritual colonization. You see, that's a way that you subdue the entire earth. But we still looking at pseudo mythology for our answers, and it's not fair. We don't see ourselves from a tribal perspective. That's actually a video I was gonna do, but I didn't feel like talking about it. But that's why we keep losing. We're not moving like tribal people. That's why we keep losing. You can't have tribes without family. You can't have family. You know, you can't have a clan without a tribe. Comes from a clan. Clan comes from a family. See what it goes back to what I was talking about earlier. The two got to come together. That male and female got to come together. You see, until you do that, you build no tribe. Until you build no tribe, you build no nation. You see, it starts right there. You see, but if you're not thinking tribal, you're just soft. You're just soft. See what I'm saying? And times are hard right now, and you soft thinking you thinking like you're integrating inside of what someone else has designed for you. It's not how tribal people think. You see what I'm saying? We have tribal customs. We have tribal laws. You know, one of the places where I live on the continent, I'm not gonna say where. One of the things I like about it is that the cops never come out there because it's like the road is bad to get to where I live, so they don't like taking the road. Um, Especially during rainy season. Like I don't really even go anywhere because even walking, like if it pulls your shoes right out of you because when it gets wet there's like clay where I live, so like you'll be stepping down and then you pull your leg up, your whole shoe is down in the mud, is gone. So I don't even move around too much when it's rainy. But one of the things that I like is tribal justice. Somebody do something stupid, we handle it because and plus you got to pay the cops to come, which is the other headache. You got to pay them to come. You know, so like instead of giving them money for gas and all of that, just where's the machete? Go grab them. Where they at? Oh, they over at their farm. Go get them. Bring them. We could deal with this right here. You know, that's tribal. I've always been an advocate for bush justice. We can do this ourselves. This is easy. A lot of stuff is easy. You know what I'm saying? Oh, they stole. What would they do? How old is he? And he slept with one of his students. How old is the little girl? Oh, she's 14 years old. Oh, this is easy. Go get him. Go get him. We had this done before dinner. You keep pounding the foo-foo. Like, we'll be right there. you know? Um, but we've gotten soft, man. You know what I mean? So, domesticated. So we don't have the strength of wild herbs anymore. You know what I mean? We've lost that. Um, and we can have that tribal mentality now, today. You know, it doesn't have to be um, when we get to this fictitious place, because the truth is, like, a lot of those fictitious places don't have it anymore anyway. You know what I mean? The places that you're imagining and thinking about, they they're the ruggedness has been colonized out of them. What you're looking for doesn't even exist there. I'm gonna say something. I'm not gonna stay too long, but I remember I had a sister talking to me about that once, man. You know, like many years ago, I was on the continent and I came back, and she was like, "Oh, I want to go with you one day," and this and that, and this was before like YouTube and stuff. Like now, you can go online and like look at any country you want. You know what I mean? But this is before it was like, yeah, when I finished getting the pictures developed, I'll I'll show them to you. It was that time period, and she was like, I can't wait to go over there and see all the drumming and the dancing, and I could just see it now, like people dancing around the fire. I was like, what? I was like, man, they don't have none of that stuff no more, man. Like, I don't know what you think this is, man. This ain't, you know what I mean? That stuff been done. Like, you get more of that here. I've seen more dancing and drumming in the States than I've ever seen on the continent. ever. And half the time I see somebody dancing and drumming on the continent, they're not from the continent. They be, Trinidadian, or what I mean, or sometimes the rosters. You go up in the rosters, they come through, they drum a little bit, but that's done. If there's a festival, yeah, but that's not. People think like you just be walking around and you know what I'm saying. Like, nah, man. You know what I mean? Like, just like tradition. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's certain states where they will acknowledge what they call the traditional religions, which you would call like Ifa or whatever. They acknowledge them, but you don't like walk down the street and see everybody with elekes on and nothing. Like, nah, everybody got crosses around the neck. If you want to go somewhere where you want to see everybody wearing elekes, go to Cuba. You go to Cuba, everybody's wearing white and they got their elekes on. You'll see way more Orisha stuff in Cuba than you will anywhere. I've been a lot of places. I say just about anywhere, right? So that's what I'm saying. A lot of times, what we are, yeah, Brazil, that's candomblé, But yeah, they have their own form too. But a lot of times, what we're holding up in our mind is not what's really happening, and that's what's keeping us held back. We got to sober up. We got to sober up to the realities of what is really required and is going to be needed to actually build, man. You know what I mean? And that requires education on a level that we thought we were going to be able to skip past. You know what I mean? Because the revolution was coming, right? But there's a level of organization that we have to learn how to establish beyond, um, you tell me this, you tell me that, or this one should do what I tell him to do, or whatever. That's so low level. You know what I mean? Like, simple thing, like, people need to learn the sciences of management. Real simple, right? And not just like, even for those of us who have our own businesses, you know, I've been able to maintain businesses for so long because I've learned the sciences. You got to be like Machiavelli. What did he say? Niccolo Machiavelli in that book, The Prince. Like, you have to use the weapons of your enemy in order to defeat them. You don't sit there and take this self-righteous stance like, well, I'm fighting with a copper sword and my enemy uses iron and they're just tearing up my swords, but this is my tradition, copper. No, you get yourself an iron sword. You know what I mean? So you have to learn what a frontline manager is. Learn what middle management does. Learn what top tier management does. Learn what kind of strategic decisions that a board of directors makes. Learn operational strategy. Things like all these different things that go into building, whatever goes into building a business goes into building a nation. It's the same thing. You know, Operational strategy, or I think I spoke earlier about just having reactionary plans, standing plans, contingency plans. You know, what does a manager actually do? They plan, they lead, they control. They make decisions. You know, who do they plan, lead, and control? Resources. What kind of resources? All sorts. Financial resources, human resources, time resources. What are the different ways of management? Are we using Gantt models? What is the Gantt model? The Gantt model, back in the days, Henry Gantt was a person, for the naval ships. They used this model of what they called the Gantt model. It was like timekeeping, basically. Like, um, how long it would take to get a job done. It's how they manage specific tasks. And then a model came later where they realized, wait a minute, you can multitask. So while this thing is sitting, I can go do something else, right? There's a science behind all of this stuff. You see, a lot of times we're too lazy. just we're too lazy to learn these things, and what we're attempting never truly gets off the ground. Just like when I knew it, I run things very differently, and I coordinate things very differently than what people are used to when they come into your typical culture community. because it's ran like a business and like a nation. Not that there's dues or anything like that. I mean, everything's free, but I'm just saying like, because you can have you can have nonprofit organization. You can have an organization where you're not looking to make a profit, but you could still run it with the same sciences. You know what I mean? And that's what creates a long-standing environment and where you're able to bring the proper culture into a space, man. But these are sciences where we have to sober up to. It's not just enough to sit around the fire and fantasize and talk about, when Babylon's going to burn, and that's cool. We do that too, but then it's got to be the other part of it. You know, there has to be the proper placing. Who's qualified for what job to do what, right? How are we measuring our positions? What kind of market share do we have, right? And what kind of growth do we have? What's our growth compared to our market share? Are we low growth, low share? Are we big share, low growth, high growth, low share? You know, like where are we standing? What aspects of our new can be gotten rid of? What ain't working anymore? You know, and what are the metrics that we use to determine what's not working anymore? Peace, James Garabaki. You know what I mean? Like these are all the things I do. you know, it's more than just getting up and teaching you metaphysics. And about Orisha and about elements and Kabbalah and all those things that we talk about. Um, there has to be a balance. All of those things are the feminine. They're abstract. But like I said, how do deities ascend back to the heavens? There has to be feminine and masculine. So the masculine is the structure, you see. And because a lot of times we have an imbalance with masculinity, in particular original, the masculinity of original men, when that's presented to people, they run. And I knew when they see this application form, I gotta fill this out. The structure, there's a spreadsheet, there's an approval process. Yeah, yeah. They see that, and that's reminiscent of a masculinity that they want nothing to do with. They want just the feminine. you know, well, can't we just do readings for each other? Can't we just vibe? I've had people say that before. Can't we just vibe? Yeah, we gonna vibe. We gonna vibe. We gonna do that. But vibing, you want something. You need bones for all that fat to sit on. So you have to build the structure first. You see? Yeah, that's right. See it grow. You have to build the structure first. You have to put the skeletal frame of the building up first before you put together the party room. You chilling on this. That's an inside joke. They don't know what that is. But yeah, man. So the only way we're gonna make it is with the two of us, man. And that's one of the easiest things that we make so difficult. Our coming together, but also repping something fully. And this is what it is. This is what I am. This is what I'm doing. And there's no spookism. And again, I don't mean to get on. Yeah, I think it was Alexander and Keith when you were talking about the Bantu piece. I'm not trying to get on you, but like I'm not trying to hear it either. Like, that's what said. We if you're saying something I know that's taking you down the wrong path, I'm gonna correct you. That's just where I am. If I can, if I don't give a damn about you, I'll just be like, oh, okay. I won't say anything. But we got to get out of that because that ain't nothing but spookism. That's just spookism. Back in Africa, all that is my spirit. You know what that is? Well, God told me. That's just spookism. You can turn anything into mystery gods. So now every time I want to do something, some mystery god culture in Africa says I can do it. Well, back in Africa, that's mystery gods, man. Let's deal with what we got, because what we got is pretty good. We just have to refine it, and we have to be willing to put that power into the refinement. You see what I'm saying? We just have to do that. That's all. And you'd be surprised what we come up with. You'll be so surprised that other things will start to make more sense to you too. You see? other things will start to make more sense. Because if it was so difficult for us to get together and do our thing and be amazing again, like if it was that hard, there wouldn't be so many forces trying to prevent us from doing it. You took the words right out of my mouth. I caught some of it. I caught some of it, missed some of it. But you think about it, like they would just be like, "Oh, we just gonna leave them be," because even if you put them in a room together with each other, they ain't about to do nothing. They ain't gonna do nothing. To this day, like we, let's just say, COINTELPRO is over, right? We'll just say that. I know. Why is there still so much effort to keep us divided? And in particular, man and woman. What is it about us that is so easy when we get together that we create something? You see what I'm saying? That's just something to kind of think about. Like, why is it so easy? Like, if I want to get bread, if I want to get bread in this country, all I have to do is put the woman on a pedestal and put my brother in the garbage, put him in the gutter. I'll be a multimillionaire. That's all I got to do, right? You go through your movie directors. I ain't gonna name anybody. You go through your social media panderers. Put the woman on a pedestal. Put the guy in the gutter, and that's how you make money here, right? But why are you paying people to do that? What is so dangerous about she and I getting together and agreeing? First off, you know, as soon as she gets with me, as soon as you get with, as soon as she gets with me, you know one thing is gonna happen. You don't know nothing else. She's gonna make sure I live longer. That's the very first thing she's gonna do. As soon as she gets with me, she's gonna say, you know, did you eat today, baby? And I'm gonna say, don't call me no goddamn baby. I'm a man. But, you know, she's gonna say, did you eat today? She's gonna say, you know, you're not drinking enough water here. Take this bottle with you when you head out. There's gonna be situations I'm gonna want to hurt people. She's gonna be like, let's just go. Come over here. Let's just forget what they talking about. Come over here. Let's go. Right? She's gonna preserve my life, and then the healing that's gonna occur when she and I are physical. You see, there's a healing that occurs. It's a whole lot that's gonna happen. And then what I'm gonna do, you notice, I'm gonna take her away from you. I'm gonna start extracting her out of the matrix, little by little. Sometimes it's not even, you know, like straight up like profession. It might just be, um, you know, when you be in between them. I don't know what they call them. I must call them weave changes. When you be doing them weave pit stops, and you be having your joint natural. Yo, I like how you look like that. You be looking real sexy. In fact, I know your hair is short. You ain't really got none, but your shorter hair like look like that makes your butt look bigger. For real? Yeah, come here. Matter of fact, come around the corner here. I want to show you something. But you know, that's gonna happen. Now she's not spending her money doing that, right? Then other things that she's gonna start feeling a sense of boldness about who she knows to be and wants to be. She's gonna feel bold about being it because she's got my strength right there with her. You see, I know without a doubt those two things are gonna happen without a doubt. Not even mentioning everything else. You see, so much work to keep us from being around each other, which is the easiest thing in the world for us because, you know, we're beautiful people internally and externally. When you leave us alone, when you leave us alone. But anyway, yeah, I just kind of wanted to share some of that. I'm gonna head out. Um, and yeah, for those applying, you're welcome. Like we said, this is the last open um, application I'm gonna do because from here on out we're just gonna recruit the special ones. People could still inquire about joining, but it will be more of a one-on-one kind of process as opposed to coming through a cohort. Yeah, love allows wisdom. Exactly. You see? Exactly. Sometimes people don't realize that. Like, love allows wisdom, law. Sometimes we go through situations, man, where like, especially in this oh, I almost said it the way Peter Tosh used to say it. Especially in this system, um, we go through situations where like we get all these doors slammed in our face, man, and male and female. And sometimes we don't understand like the doors of Babylon being closed in our face are opportunities for us to invest ourselves. You think about the situations happening right now, how many people have been spending more quality time with their family. And it's because they've taken an L. That's what Brother Utu just put in the chat. Love allows wisdom. L, right? That love. But you take the L. Taking the L doesn't always mean that I'm taking a loss. I'm taking love. You see what I'm saying? And when you look at the L, for those of us who study the mathematics, we also understand that the L is in the same shape as the number 7. You see, which is the number for deity. So you rejecting me only brings out the God in me. It's all good. I'll take that L. It's all right. And when I start to be more of that, like like Mama Shaharazad, used to say, what woman don't want to be with a man who say he God? But being more of that, man, and taking on those qualities, not just saying it, but being it, man. That's when that union comes together, and then the family comes together, and then the clan comes together, then the tribe comes together, then the nation comes together, and we could do some things, you know. But yeah, man, this has been cool. Like I said, it's been a long time, and my reason I've been gone has been a couple of reasons, but one of which, like I said, I just been trying to help people in my own little way to get away from their screens, you know, get away from their screens. You know, it's not that great for the eyes, but also, man, sometimes these distractions cause us to miss what's crumbling around us. you know, and we need to get out and breathe. With no obstructions. Um, Sometimes that's important, man. And instead of always having some music playing or a podcast or looking at a video of me or whomever, listen to outside and what's happening. Listen to how the vibrations of things are changing. You remember when this thing first popped off? How it felt outside, how quiet it was, and then like you, the birds started coming forth, and all these different animals, and there was all these news reports of like all of these forest animals being in the streets because the people weren't there messing with them. So people had like foxes walking down their block and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly, Sister Kashia. The stillness. You know what I mean? So, I, you know, I wasn't on as frequent because I was like, man, I don't want to contribute to people, you know, being in this thing, these little plastic rectangular devices, uh, as much. That's why I didn't mind going so long this segment because I know I'm not really going to be on much. But yeah, that's about all I wanted to say, and I want to thank you all for kicking it and for being present. Those of you, especially who contributed. Oh, and those of you hit the like button too, because I mean, we I think we pretty much got. I think we maxed out around 53, 54. We got 51 likes, so that's pretty good, right? Um, but yeah, man, I just wanted to thank everyone, and I wanted to give. Oh, we got 52. So some people didn't. But but just for those who are applying and stuff, just to keep that in mind. Um, you got to rep. and our new demands change. I don't think anybody in our new is comfortable. I don't know. I could do a poll, but I don't think so. You know, yeah, I don't think anybody's really comfortable, but they still here. But yeah, man, that change is important, and that refinement, and most importantly, we're a reformation movement. We recognize that we have been malformed by a messed up. Yeah, I know, Queen. She got the emoji and everything. Yeah, but we recognize that we've been malformed by a vicious and malicious and vengeful system. This is not our natural, tribal, wild, beautiful, sensuous state that we're supposed to be in. So being reformed is difficult. It requires a lot of water and a lot of power. That's why it's power of refinement. You know what I mean? And the power oftentimes and unfortunately is confronted by the strength of the ego. The ego is not powerful, but it's got strength, you know, and it becomes a battle to see who has the most energy, which is Ashe, who has the most chi, you know, is my power more than your strength? Because I'm like Ella Andel. I'm bringing down the power, but you might be pushing up with egoic strength. Uh oh, uh-oh. So it becomes a battle of will at that point. But anyway, everyone, please enjoy your night. Enjoy your families. Tomorrow will be our Sabbath readings. We're still dealing. Peace to you, Cassie Derwin. Um, we're still dealing, as well as Keith Morgan and anybody else I may have missed, of course. I'm out of practice with the reading it and stuff like that. But yeah, man, just will everybody continue to be safe, continue to be aware, continue to be conscious, because having consciousness is holding life. You know what I mean? So just keep holding life and be aware of the things around you. You know what I mean? Keep eating healthy foods. Don't stop taking your elixirs because it ain't over. You know what I mean? But keep eating right. Don't eat out of convenience, and just move safely. You know what I mean? Things have. Oh, thank you, Cassie. I will too. Yeah. Oh, no doubt. Now, oh, you stayed for the whole thing, huh? You probably making music. That's why you got this playing in the background. But yeah, man. So just everyone, just be safe, man. And like I said, just keep eating right. All kind of food that I'm talking about. You just make sure you keep eating right, man. Um, they still haven't gotten the real food back yet. They're not going to. They're gonna keep pushing these plant-based products. Be smart, okay? So keep ingesting in the right things, man. That's just a little hint towards something that I'm giving you. You know, and the commodity prices are falling. I mean, the market is not been doing that great, but the commodity prices are falling too for a reason. All right. So pay attention to that. And we got another housing crash coming up pretty soon. All right. So uh, keep your cash ready for that. All right. Everyone be well. Peace.